Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to another live Q&A. Now, I do apologize. I haven't had the chance to switch over and get all of these cool graphics that we have. I know we recently updated them. I moved around a few things in my hard drives and I seem to have lost them. But thank you for your patience and welcome for those of you just joining me. I am wearing a Team Canada soccer jersey. So please let me know in the comments for what team are you rooting for the World Cup. Canada is playing in a few hours, I think. So it's going to be a short half hour because I need to go and meet up with some friends to watch the game. I guess I don't need to, but I think I want to go and meet up with some friends to watch the game. So as usual, post in the comments from where you're joining me from. Let me know and what team you're supporting in the World Cup. And if you happen to be supporting Canada, I have some bad news because they're already out. They're already out. They're playing Morocco this afternoon, but they are already out. Listen, we talk a lot about Express Entry. I think in the few minutes as we get more questions, I do want to talk about judicial reviews. Judicial reviews it involves going to court and arguing that the decision, the refusal for your application is wrong. So let's take a few minutes to talk about this. And as we keep going, please post your questions in the chat below. So we're just going to switch over here. Oops, I need to link my screen. And I do apologize. I figured, you know what, even if I don't have the most beautiful graphs, let's try to do a live Q&A. So here we go. Here's a website. We are Health Immigration Law. And what? Oh, there we go. It's just like that. We are Health Immigration Law, and you can head over to our website and you can learn more about judicial reviews in our legal help. Now, a judicial review involves going to federal court and asking a judge to overturn the decision, but it doesn't mean that your application is going to be approved. All it means is that another visa officer is going to take a look at the decision and decide whether or not there is an error, right? Whether or not the decision is unreasonable. So I wrote this detailed blog here, and I do quite a bit of judicial reviews. And if you have a rejected application, you might be asking yourself, well, what do I do, right? Do you reapply? Do you make a reconsideration request? Or do you do a judicial review? All three of them are going to result in an application where IRCC is going to look at the application again and make another decision. But if you're interested, if you've been rejected, if you've had one or two or three refusals, or a misrepresentation, or a refusal, like sometimes if you just have one refusal, you can just redo a study permit, right? And put the documents that you were missing, get a new letter of acceptance, get better proof of funds. But if you've had multiple refusals or like misrepresentations, in those cases, a judicial review might be one of your only options. Now, we have our first question here on the live Q&A. We have Abijat says, hello, good morning. Good morning to you too. And we have a question here saying, I have a closed work permit. Oh, what is going on? Everything just seems to be broken. For some reason, there's this YouTube sign now in the middle of the comment. But listen, we're gonna try our best today. I will try to get this cleaned up, guys. I do promise you. All right, let's take a look at this first question here saying, hello, I have a closed work permit. My wife has a spousal open work permit. I'll be leaving to work for H-1B. Will my wife's work permit be affected due to that? Also, can she renew her work permit later? So excellent question. And the answer to your question is a little bit nuanced. So there isn't any rule that says, if you leave Canada, your spouse's work permit is going to become canceled and whatnot. But this being said, and this is just general information, right? When we take a look here at the requirements for a spousal work permit, so we're just going to go back up here. So if you're a spouse of a skilled worker, so you yourself, Abhijat, you worked in a skilled NOC OA or B, right? A skilled occupation, you're authorized to work for at least 6 months, you had a valid work permit or an authorization under 186, right? You're physically residing or plan to physically reside while employed, and you're in genuine relationship, well, then your spouse can get a work permit. Now, if you cease to be to work in a high skilled occupation, and if you don't physically reside inside Canada, your spouse is not eligible for a work permit. And now it's a little bit tricky because they've already received, right? In your question, your spouse has already received a work permit, and now you're going to the United States to work, right? So it's definitely tricky. I would not recommend it because the raison d'être, the reason your spouse got a work permit is because of you, and now they do not qualify anymore for the work permit. But again, this is just general information, and I would probably not recommend to continue working if, right, the reason for the work permit of the issued cease to be valid. And you can look at, for example, another way around. Imagine that you applied for a PNP and you were nominated by Ontario, right? And then you make an application for a work permit to work with the nomination while your PR application is pending, and then you, for some reason, you decide that you want to move to another province or you want to renounce to the nomination, right? The reason you got the work permit is because of the nomination. In that case, it would not be appropriate to continue working. But listen, it's a little bit tricky. And your second question, can she also renew her work permit later? Well, it's going to come down to whether or not you're living inside Canada for your spouse. Your spouse can get a LMIA-based work permit. They can get a closed work permit themselves. This being said, they're not going to qualify for an open work permit if you yourself are not physically residing inside Canada to be employed. Now, again, these are all the rules. This is the page that I'm referring to, so you can take a look at that yourself. And here are all the various programs, right? So there's specific programs, provincial nominees, bridging open work permits. There's a lot of different ways, and this is part of a longer list of LMIA exemption codes. So these are work permits that do not require LMIAs. And so she may be qualify under, for example, as an intra-company transfer for a company, if she's previously worked somewhere else, under Canadian International, under the new CUSMA. I'm trying to find where it is, but under the CUSMA as well, she might qualify under Canadian International Exemption Code. So, but generally speaking, like, she's going to have to find another way to continue her work permit, right? All right, we have Francis joining us. Says Team Ghana. Team Ghana. Wow. Okay. I really hope they win, Francis. I don't know if they're out or not. I haven't been following the last few days. Francis says, "Is TR to PR be opened again?" I doubt it. I really don't think so. We have a video on our channel where we talk all about the policy that was announced this late summer or early fall about transitioning from temporary resident to permanent resident. But it's not going to be like we saw before. Before, we saw a big program that allowed thousands and thousands of people to come to Canada. Right? If you're already in Canada, you can apply for PR. But I really don't expect a similar program. What we're going to see is a lot of changes to existing programs that are going to make it easier to transition from temporary resident to permanent residence. We have another comment here. It says, "Hello from Lima, Peru." Hello and welcome. What team are you going for in the World Cup? We have Riyadh here. Says, "Hello, hi to you two. Can you explain me the process for immigration from Morocco to Canada?" So Riyadh, excellent question. And usually I don't really entertain questions like, how do I immigrate to Canada? How do I come to Canada? But listen, let's talk in detail. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because I actually wrote, if you're in Morocco, you're a French speaker. And if you speak French, this gives you advantages to immigrate to Canada. So let's go take a look here. We have a lot of content on blogs, study permits, rejections and whatnot. But I actually wrote a whole blog specifically about how to immigrate to Canada as a francophone. So I wrote this recently, and I strongly encourage you to read this. Donc, en français, donc, pour immigrer au Canada, si ça vous intéresse, vous pouvez obtenir un permis de travail dans le cadre du programme de mobilité francophone, donc venir au Canada pour travailler, et ensuite vous pouvez faire une demande pour la résidence permanente pour entrer express. Donc ici, j'explique essentiellement la stratégie. Donc, vous pouvez venir au Canada pour travailler. Une fois que vous accumulez 1 année ou 2 ans d'expérience de travail canadien, vous pouvez ensuite obtenir la résidence permanente. So if you're a French speaker, right? So either your whole school has been in French is your first language, or even if you're able to pass a French test and get a CLB, I think it's 7, 5 or 7. Yeah, so 7. So if you're able to get the CLB 7 in all the competence, you're going to be able to get a work permit, come to Canada. The work permit can be valid for up to 5 years. And what you need to do is you do need to get an offer of employment, not an LMIA, but you do need to get an offer of employment from an employer. They need to register it, and then you can make an application for a work permit. So it's much quicker than an LMIA. And then once you do get your Canadian work experience, you are able to get additional points for your Canadian work experience, but also additional points because you speak French. So let's go take a look here at the ministerial instructions. Now this is in French. I'll just switch it to English because most of you I know are English. And we can actually take a look here, and it's called second official language. So if we take, or actually, do they have, I think it's just called French actually. There we go. So let's go take a look at the very bottom here. So this is the details about how to get points. And you can see here that if you're able to get, if your French is assessed at a level 7, it's not CLB, but Niveau de Compétence Linguistique Canadienne. But in any event, if it's at a level 7 in all of them, or if you have here a level 5 or higher, or 7 higher in all categories, you can get up to 50 additional points. So Riyadh, for you, if you speak French, if you're in Morocco, you probably do speak French. You could be eligible for an open work permit just with a job offer, right? And then transition to permanent residence. Now, the caveat is that it must be outside of Quebec. It cannot be inside of Quebec. We talked a lot in detail about Express Entry. We can give a brief overview over Express Entry. I don't want to repeat what we talked about on Tuesday, but if you do get the Canadian work experience, you will be able to apply for the Canadian experience class. And this is going to give you additional points. So if you have 1 year of skilled Canadian work experience, in your case, Riyadh, you might also qualify right now for permanent residence. Like you could qualify and come to Canada with permanent residence in 6 to 12 months, let's say. So here are the requirements. And you need to have a pass mark of 67 points to be eligible. So you need 1 year of continuous skilled work experience. This is the minimum. You need to speak French or English at a minimum level of 7 in all 4 abilities. Your education, so at the very minimum, you must have the Canadian education or foreign credentials. So you have to get your education assessed, and then you have proof of funds. And the way it works is that so you make a profile, you put all your information inside the profile, and then what's going to happen is they're going to give you a score. And if your score is high enough, they're going to give you what's called an invitation to apply. And we can actually take a look here. So these are all the individuals. Here are all the scores. So right now, this last draw was 491, and we expect the next draw to be around 480. So this is great. So 480 is still very high. We're talking like 1, 2, 3 years of foreign work experience. Be like in your early 30s, late 20s, because that affects your points, right? Have also speak great English, even speak French is going to give you additional points. So listen, Riyadh, this is just like a 5-minute rundown about how to immigrate to Canada. If you're a Francophone, as I mentioned, gives you lots of advantages. If you head over to our website, go ahead with Speak with a Lawyer. And I'm actually teleworking abroad, so I'm available for better hours compared to lawyers inside Canada. So we have Alicia, we have Chanel, and I'm here at the bottom. So I focus a lot on rejected applications, but I do also do quite a bit of Express Entry, work permits, and study permits. So head to look here, you can go ahead and book a consult. And I'd love to speak to you more about how you can immigrate to Canada, Riyadh. All right, question here. Alvalino Chris says, by the way, what's going on with different applications getting refused? I read officers can't handle the number of applications and therefore they're refusing a number of them. Yeah, so some applications, during COVID, they were pending, and a lot of applications were pending. Visa offices were closed, and here, so in some programs, they are returning applications, not refusing them, but returning some applications because, yeah, they're a really high number. But it's quite uncommon, right? Study permits, are still being processed. Work permits are being processed. Thousands of people are still getting their permanent residence, but some specific programs, specific classes with some specific visa offices, yeah, we are seeing some applications being returned. All right, question here. Nice. Hello, nice to see you. I have a request for additional documents from IRCC. After submitting your application for PR, requesting for TEF originals, which we did submit already, should I worry? So interesting question. So let's go take a look here at what's called the completeness check. And the completeness check is all the documents you need to provide at the time that you apply for Express Entry. And here you see application for PR. So I don't know if it's Express Entry. What might be more helpful is if we take a look at the language tests PR. They have a whole page about skilled migrants. Oh, funny enough, it's still Express Entry. Listen, let's just focus on Express Entry. So the TF is a French test. And interestingly enough, you're going to see here is saying So you must schedule it. You must enter the test results in your Express Entry profile and include the results in your application if you're invited to apply. If you don't include it, we will not process your application. So they just want the results. So don't ask for language test results sent to us, blah, blah, blah. But here, this page is also going to say that sometimes they do request the actual test notes. Is it this page? Listen, sometimes it's hard to find the exact page, but what I'm trying to tell you is that what you need to do is enter the test results, include it in your application. If you made a typo in or if you did not properly enter the information, it is possible that that they're not able to find your language tests. So if that's the case, you could definitely resend it, and keep in mind that they're only valid for 2 years. So if you made a typo, if it's expired, if there's any other issue with finding it, it is possible that they ask you for the original copy. Now, I don't think you should worry, but again, it's just general information, and I encourage you to take a closer look at the pages that I have here. But yes, do what they ask you to do, and I really hope that everything works well. Obviously, if you want to talk about this in detail and review the letter and help you reply to it, we do have experience with additional document requests, but if you just have the original and think you can handle it yourself, just make sure you read the pages here and go from there. All right. Leah says, is it safe to use a web form to submit tuition receipt after application is submitted? Excellent question. So web forms. So web forms are taking a long time, like 6 to 8 weeks after being made. So it's possible in some cases that the web form is missed before they actually process your application. But there is actually a web form, Aliyah, for outside Canada. So there's a web form for inside Canada. There's one for outside Canada. This is the page you're looking for outside Canada. And if we actually take a look here, you're going to say what you want to do. And this page is specifically to give new information about your application. So go tell us more. We're going to say no because you're not giving information for parents. Yes, you've already made student, and you're going to say yes, outside Canada. Super important. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to select the office. Just select this randomly. And then you can go ahead and contact the office. Now, we strongly encourage you to have, when you submit your application, to have a complete, detailed application. Like, as I mentioned, 6 to 8 weeks for web forms. And if it's processed before, the web form might be missed. Sometimes the web form actually doesn't find its way from the web form all the way to the actual file itself. So listen, I definitely recommend that you do it before, but if you've just realized that you've applied too late or you're updating information, this is the way to do it. And yeah, it is safe. It's just not recommended. It's not the best approach, but it's really your only option. It's your only option to update an application. Fernando says, hello from Panama. I hope everyone is doing great. I hope so too. Welcome to everyone. I'm going for Argentina and Brazil, of course. Were you saying you're from Peru? Yeah, you were saying you're from Peru. Listen, the watching Argentina last night was so exciting. All right, Don says, is it possible to obtain PR after studying a program that is 1 year in duration? Excellent question. So it is possible, but it's not recommended. We usually recommend at least 2 years, 2-year study program. And let's talk about why people say to have this 2-year study program. So so once you study inside Canada for a specific number of time, you may be eligible for what's called a post-graduation work permit. So if you study for at least 8 months in duration, they're going to give you a work permit for 1 year. If you complete a 2-year program, they're going to give you a work permit for up to 3 years. That's super important. A very, very important distinction here. So let's take a look. Is this the page I'm looking for? This is not the page that I was looking for. There's a page that actually breaks down everything to do regarding this program, eligibility requirements, and it shows us a nice table, validity and application. There we go. So if your study program is at least 8 months and less than 2 years, this is how they calculate it. They're going to give you a work permit that is going to be for 1 year. And if you complete a program that is 2 years or longer, the length of the work permit should be 3 years, whereas the one here should be round up to the next full month. So it's super important and strongly recommended that you get this 3-year work permit instead of a 2-year work permit. All right, and now you're probably asking, why does this matter? Well, we take a look at the PR program. So All right, we're going to take a look at Express Entry, the Canadian Experience class. So the minimum requirement that you would need to get to be eligible is at least 1 year of skilled work experience inside Canada. And this is so important because keep in mind, this is the minimum, but when we talk about CRS points, let's open a new tab here and let's go take a look at their ministerial instructions. We take a look here at the ministerial instructions. When you have 2 years of work experience, you get more points. So we have here Canadian work experience. Let's head down here. So we can see here after 1 year, you're going to get yourself 40 points, and after 2 years, 53, and after 3 years, 64, and so on. But this is just like the main points. We also have what is called transferability points, and the transferability points are kind of like bonus points. So if you have a mix of Canadian work experience plus language, or Canadian work experience plus foreign work experience. So let's get to those. So here's a combination of level of education and language. Here's a combination of level of education and Canadian work experience. You get bonus points. So here, not only are you going to get the bonus 40 points for 1 year, but you may also get the extra 13. And then the bonus points here go up to 25. And if you have 1 year Canadian work experience or more, you can get yourself up to 50 transferability points. This is super if you have 2 years or more Canadian work experience. So at the 2 years, you're really starting to get a lot of points for your Express Entry profile. And this can make all the difference between obtaining your PR inside Canada and not obtaining your PR. So super, super important. And we strongly recommend you to get a 2-year work permit. All right, we have JJ says, good. Will there be another pathway for health work, or how soon are they doing regularization? So JJ, the TR to PR is frequently asked on the live Q&As, and it's an excellent question. There's a TR to PR policy that we talked about earlier on the live Q&A, and in short, it's a policy that for transitioning of temporary residents to permanent residents. And we're expecting lots of changes, maybe for healthcare workers, maybe for students, for a lot of individuals. But I would be very surprised if we see a whole new TR to PR program announced for healthcare workers that allows them to transition from TR to PR. So there we have it, guys. I do have to head out, but I just want to thank you so much for joining me. I do live Q&As at 8:30 a.m. Toronto time every Tuesdays and Thursdays. So please join me. I love to take your questions, and we'll speak to you